Okay, we're ready to go. Apologies for the late start. We're just having some IT issues. Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge, appreciate that the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq First Nation. And a couple of issues under call to order, but I believe the first is that we had our Deputy Mayor, Stu McFadgen, pass away Sunday evening. Yesterday, City Hall placed its Charlottetown flag at half-mast. And I'm just going to ask if you could all please stand up for a moment of silence for Deputy Mayor Stu McFadgen. Thank you. Our executive assistant to Mayor and Council, Jackie and Cherry, they'll be sending out times and dates for the wake and the funeral today or tomorrow, so please just keep an eye on your emails. Hopefully we can go together as a group for the wake and the funeral, but that depends on your schedules. The next item is that I want to extend, and from City Council, congratulations to John Dewey, our Executive Director of the Federation of PEI Municipalities, who will be retiring at the end of this month. John has spent 24 years as Executive Director and has served all member municipalities across this province very well. So I don't know if the deputy wishes to add any to that acknowledgement, but I would like to say on behalf of myself and members of the City Council, we would like to wish John all the best on his retirement and wish him, his family, all the best luck in the future and the next chapter in his life. And there will be a celebration for John Dewey this Friday at the FPEIM office, which is on Malpeque Road, between 1 and 4 p.m. And another item under call to order, before we begin the meeting, the business that we have to deal with today, which is not long, there's only one item. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that tomorrow, January 29th, is the National Day of Remembrance of the Quebec City Mosque attack. I want to take a moment as we pause to reflect on the horrific events that unfolded on January 29th, 2017. That tragic day, a gunman entered a mosque and opened fire on Muslim worshippers, killing 6 men and injuring many, many more in a display of hatred which shook not only Quebec City, but the whole of Canada. As we remember the victims and their families affected by this act of senseless violence, we must also acknowledge the deep collective pain caused by such acts of terror. I'm proud to support the Green Square campaign. These will be available hopefully tomorrow, which encourages political leaders across Canada to wear a small green patch on January 29th to show solidarity with the victims, their families, and to stand against hate in all its forms. This initiative is a powerful symbol of unity and commitment to a future where no one faces violence because of their beliefs of identity. So I encourage all Canadian political leaders and members of the community to join this campaign. Together, we can ensure that the lessons of this tragic event and others can continue to guide our efforts towards a more inclusive and peaceful society. And finally, and not least, Thursday we will have a public hearing on the provincial government's application for 15 Park Street. Again, I just remind our members of council that we will be there to listen, to remain impartial, unbiased, objective, to ask questions, to clarify points that will be brought up. Please, let's keep an open mind on this upcoming meeting. And that being said, are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none, just remind our viewers that Councillors Bob Duran, Trevor McKinnon, Norman Beck, and Mitchell Tweel are calling in, and Dan Jenkins is also calling in by phone. Approval of agenda, moved by Councillor Ramsey, second by Councillor McAleer. All in favour?
In favor?
Councillor Duran, yes. Councillor McKinnon?
Yes, in favor? Yeah.
Councillor McKinnon? Councillor Beck?
Yes. Yes, in favor.
Councillor Tweel?
In favor.
Okay. Number 4 is discussion item resolution 1, protective and emergency services resolution, authorize Public Works to secure a residential structure. Who's presenting that? Okay. Okay, we'll read the resolution and then we'll open discussion, but I believe Councillor McCabe, if she or the Chief of Fire Services, Tim Mamie, will answer any questions. Please read the resolution.
Your Worship, Protective and Emergency Services Resolution Number 1, moved by Councillor Julie McCabe, seconded by Councillor Kevin Ramsey. Be it resolved that the Public Works Manager be authorized to secure the building and garage at 31 Kirkwood Drive, PID number 370841, by boarding up windows and doors, painting the material covering the doors and windows at the property owner's expense, in accordance with the terms of the National Fire Protection Association 1 Fire Code Section 1012.1 and the Dangerous, Hazardous and Unsightly Premises Bylaw of the City of Charlottetown, and that a fire services compliance order was served on the owner October 9th, 2024, pictures taken with no satisfactory action done by the property owner to resolve this issue.
The resolution is on the floor. There is a backup report, I believe, prepared by Protection and Emergency Services. Councillor McCabe.
Thank you. I think I'm just going to front load in case I answer questions that are probably out there anyway at the moment. But I know that this property has been talked about for a long time in the city, and how it doesn't always meet our current unsightly, dangerous, hazardous bylaw. For today's resolution, the difference between what maybe has been dealt with in the past, which fell more to kind of the bylaw officer and Public Works doing some cleanup property, is now that this building is deemed unsafe by our fire code. So that's why in the resolution it clearly states that it meets the next level as far as making sure that the building's boarded up and safe until either the property owner is able to bring it up to compliance, or they will have to look at possibly demolition of the building. So police and fire kind of work together, and I think in the end it's just important when we look at safety, that fire code that we've adopted under our bylaw will trump, but it starts kind of a new process in that time frame. So I'm sure there are questions, and between the chief and myself, we'll do our best to answer any questions you might have.
Do we have any questions from our audience here in the chamber? Councillor
I have a question.
Councillor Beck? Okay. Go ahead.
Councillor Duran can go ahead.
Councillor Duran, did you want to ask a question first?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Beck.
Yeah, so I'm just, I'm kind of trying to get clarification on where we are with the 18-month window that applies to a property such as this. And I do know that we have had discussions about this before, and I watched the committee meeting the other day, and it seemed to me that there was an indication that following the execution of this order, that the 18-month window would be commencing now as opposed to roughly 15 months ago, which is what my understanding was. So I'm kind of seeking clarification on that as to whether the 18-month period to either repair a property and bring it up to standard is now in effect as of the implementation of this, or whether it applies back to the October 24th Police and Emergency Services meeting, at which time a hazardous compliance order was issued. So I'm looking for clarification on the timeline when that actually starts. Does it start back in the October 24th, 2023 meeting, or does that 18-month timeline start as of now?
Councillor Kane.
I'm going to tell you that I understand that the timeline right now starts, once we pass this resolution, that it is 18 months. That was clarified at committee level. And I think I'm going to let Tim try to explain the difference of what was passed back in October versus what's being passed today and how the two intersect. Tim, if you don't mind.
Councillor McCabe, can we just clarify one thing? In the background, it says fire services compliance order served on owner on October 9th, 2024. Was there another one issued in 2023? Just maybe,
I'm going to allow the chief to respond to that
that's what I'm
question.
going to ask, if that was the case. Chief Tim.
Yes, Your Worship, thank you, and Chair McCabe. I'll do my best to answer. I would have to dig the file out, Your Worship, to check on previous hazard compliance orders, but we do have the hazard compliance order from 24th of January, or 9th of October, apologies, 2024. And in answer to Councillor Beck's question, in accordance with the Dangerous Hazardous and Unsightly Premises Bylaw, Section 5.9, it describes in there that when a property or a building has been secured pursuant to, and it gives you a section of the actual bylaw, but in accordance with the National Fire Protection Association 1 Fire Code 10.12.1, when it has been secured in accordance with that, that's when the 18-month clock starts in accordance with our 5.9 Dangerous Hazardous and Unsightly Bylaw. So that's where the 18-month period is. And once the building has been properly secured in accordance with the code that was delivered to the owner and or the action taken by the owner, or in this case by the city, that's when the 18 months will begin, once it is completely secured and all fire hazards removed. Hope that answers.
Can I follow
I
up on
think
that?
probably what Councillor Beck's wondering is what was issued on October 9th. Even I wasn't part of the committee at that time. So when fire issued a notice on the 9th of October, what was the purpose at that time? And do they have that much time where we try to work with the property owner? And I'm thinking that's probably the answer, but I don't think any of us want to be in a situation when we're having to look at taking down a property in the city or whatever. And I think we have tried to work with the property owner, and it's gotten to a point where now we have to make the difficult decision whether or not we want to start the process for potential demolition. But I'm going to let Chief again clarify if I'm correct.
Chief?
Yes, thank you once again, Chair, and through your worship. The hazard compliance order issued on the 9th of October 2024 identified the vacant building itself, and the owner in charge of that building had to secure all the building, combustible waste, storage, refuse, and vegetation, so it all had to be removed. Reduce the fuel load that's actually in the building. When a building is vacant and all of the furniture and effects are left in there, it adds to the fuel load of the building. So we make sure there's no fuel load built up in a vacant building, and that's all removed as well. Vacant buildings are subject to vandalism and arson, and that's why we must secure all doors and windows. So that was also in the compliance order, that description of what type of construction materials are used to secure the building in accordance with the compliance order and the code referred. So that was the compliance order issued on the 2024, October 9th. With most occupancies throughout the city, when there is a fire inspector involved, if there's an inspection and or in this case a vacant building and we get involved, there are going to be code violations that are written up in a compliance order. They generally have a 30, 60, or 90-day timeline to get the work, to get the notice issued to the owner and then get the work started and carried out. All the owner has to do in that timeline is cooperate with the fire department who has issued the compliance order and put a work order in place or a work plan, and we can extend that work order. So the compliance orders are never generally cleaned up unless they're very minor instances in that 30 days or the 60 days. You think about repairs to your own home, you'd have to order in the materials and get somebody to do the work. The same thing happens on a compliance order, although it is now noted, it's on our system, and we follow up regularly. So that's how that happens. But sometimes the 30, 60, or 90 days does not bring things to fruition. We have to continue to work with the owner after that.
Councillor Beck?
Yeah, okay, so I guess what I'm having a hard time with here is at our October 24th, 2023 Police and Emergency Protective Services meeting, it was indicated at that time that there was a hazardous compliance order that was issued on this property. At that time, as well as two others, one on Upper Prince Street and one on Chestnut Street. And at that time, it was indicated that the building had been secured and that the hazardous compliance order had been issued, and that the process would be starting from that point on. And that's where the 18 months would have taken effect. That there would have been an 18-month period, which would lead us up to roughly, I think, by my calculations, March 8th, 2025. So that would be the 18-month period, because all the things that we're talking about here today were indicated in that resolution at our previous Police and Protective Emergency Services meeting, that the hazardous compliance order had been issued and that the building had been secured. So I'm having a hard time understanding as to why the 18-month is just starting now, when we have our bylaw officers, our fire inspector. I know Kent Mitchell has been involved in that as well too, has been working with this property prior to that hazardous compliance order being issued on October 24th, 2023. And I'm wondering, I'm having a hard time understanding why we are now instituting that 18-month time frame based on this order that we're recommending here today. Seems to me that all these same measures were indicated or were addressed back on October 24th, 2023.
Okay. Councillor McKay? Or do you want to just defer it?
Just, I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted here. I'm just trying to ask our expert in the bylaw pool to see what has been passed. Councillor Beck, I don't have that resolution from 2023 in front of me, so I'm not recalling that specific. You said that went to council and was passed at a council meeting?
It was in a report of our October 24th from Police and Emergency Protective Services. It would have been provided as an update on the properties, because at our committee level meetings, we had been asking for updates on properties that potentially met, that were either uninhabited, vacant, or of a hazardous fire safety nature. So as part of that regular update, it came back to us at that October 24th meeting that this building had been issued a hazardous compliance order and that the building had been secured. It's right in the report.
Okay, Tracy, I'm not cutting you off here for a moment, but in the August 2023 resolution, it was a resolution passed at council level to clean up the property. And that goes back to what I was saying when I first started, Councillor Beck. It's like our police and fire they both fall under this hazardous and unsightly bylaw, but they operate a little different and they come together to meet in the middle. This is where our work at our committee level is going to be so important when we're updating our current bylaw to make this a little bit more clear and maybe less silo-spaced so people understand. It's a little bit confusing and for me too, but there was no resolution at that time to board up the property. So this is the next step because of safety that's been deemed, where they've tried to work with the property owner to do what was necessary to bring the building up to safety compliance, is now been deemed that's not happened within the allotted time to get there. So now we're on to the next step, which falls to fire, and fire, not that it trumps police, but in our current bylaw, when safety is deemed under our fire code as non-compliant, it becomes another level.
Yeah.
Well,
Chief,
what's the difference?
just one
what's the
second.
difference between,
No. Councillor Beck, for the
Go
people that are listening there, Councillor Duran, Councillor Drever, Councillor Norman, Councillor Tweel, and Dan, some of you must have something on there, or if you're not talking, just mute it, because we're getting a lot of feedback here. So, Chief Fire Tim, I think, Chief of Fire Tim Mamie, I think we did, on October 24th, 2023, it wasn't the same order issued. This is to set in progress a order to, it wasn't October 24th? Okay, August, correct?
Your worship and Chair, through your worship, yes, that appears to be exactly what the instance is it was brought forward, this property was brought forward for the general cleanup that Public Works has been doing on many buildings around that have been left to run derelict in some cases or to overgrow. So I'm assuming, and I don't have the order in front of me either, but that is what was issued and brought through to committee at that time. This is a separate matter where it is now brought to the property under 5.9 of the Dangerous Hazardous and Unsightly Premises bylaw. Once this building is secured, following this issue of compliance order and the declaration of committee and council, then the 18-month clock would start. That is the actual reference in the Dangerous Hazard Unsightly, once the property has been secured, which I'm assuming, and from all of my records, shows that this would be the first time for the property, if this was carried through.
Okay. Councillor McCabe, do you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I think it's, again, it shows that we have a little bit of work to do or to continue to do on our bylaw, but the August 23rd, just to summarize, was an order to clean up the property with Public Works to go in and cut the grass and make sure the outside of the property was done. The first fire compliance was issued in October of 2024. We heard the fire chief indicate that at that time, they give the property owner 30, 60, 90 days, depending on what's happening and what's going on in the situation, which we're not always privy to work with the property owner to see if we can support them in getting it to where it needs to be. We are now in January 2025. They've issued the final order because they're saying...
is there a recess of some sort? I can't hear anything.
What's that?
Is there a recess of some sort? I can't hear anything.
No, Councillor McCabe is just giving her summary of what took place over the last 2 years on this issue. You can't hear us?
No, I can't
Can't hear anything at my end either.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Never
Okay.
been told I can be heard.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
Like
Okay, sorry. So
Councillor
I just want to
McAleer.
summarize
Like
that
Councillor
again.
McAleer.
So I think what we said was in August 2023, Councillor Beck, it was unsightly based on like grass and things around the property where Public Works went in and cleaned up that. When you got to the October 2024 fire notice, they are given 30, 60, or 90 days to kind of show that they're going to demonstrate that they're going to bring their home into compliance, that they're working with the necessary support people to do that. And here we are in January 2025. There has been no indication that that's happening. So now we're at the stage where fire has deemed it unsafe and not, we're going to board up the house 18 months from now. At that time, the property owner, if there's no efforts or work done to bring it up to code, it will have to be a home that will be demolished, is what I understand.
Did you hear that, Councillor Beck?
Yeah, and the October 24th, 2023 meeting was not dealing with grass cutting and removal. It was clearly indicated it was a hazardous compliance order. That's not grass cutting and unsightly premises and stuff like that. That's a different level. And that's not the conversation that we were having back at that time, because there was a lot of questions about the safety of this property, the structural soundness of it, and all that sort of stuff. So we weren't talking about grass cutting or removal of things from the property, whatever it might be. It was a hazardous compliance order, and I guess that's what I'm having a hard time understanding. What did that hazardous compliance order mean? My understanding at that time was that started out the 18-month clock as of September 8th when that order was issued. It got presented at our meeting on the 24th of October 2023 that the hazardous compliance order had been issued on September 8th. That's different than property cleanup, in my opinion.
Go ahead, Councilor McCabe.
Thank you. I agree. The note I got, because I don't have the actual resolution we passed, was that we passed a resolution to clean up the property, which would be typical to what we do, Councillor, back at many of those meetings when we list off numerous properties to give Public Works the right to go in and clean up the property. But what we'll do is we'll have Tracy maybe pull up the resolution that was actually passed to make sure that we're clear on what you understood. And maybe there was more discussion at committee level, but I think from what I understand, the actual resolution that came to committee was that it was to clean up the property.
Okay. So for the now and then, let's just vote on the resolution that's in front of us. Okay? That gets everything moving. Questions called. Okay. All those in favor of the resolution, please raise your hand. Councillor McAleer, yea or nay? Okay. Councillor Duran.
In favor?
Councillor McKinnon.
In favor?
Councillor Beck.
Oh, yeah, I guess I'm in favor.
Okay. Councillor Twill. Councillor Twill, get off. You there, Councillor Twill? Okay, he left the meeting. So it's 8-0, and we'll follow up. Councillor Beck, you could just provide that information to the chair of the Standing Committee for Protection and Emergency Services and Chief Tim Mamie, and they'll follow up on it. Good? All right?
I'll touch base with them when I come back from Ottawa.
Thank you, sir. Motion to adjourn? Motion adjourned. Councillor McCabe? Councillor Duran? Oh, I was going to say Councillor Duran.
Yes.
Say Councillor Ramsey.
Yes.
All in favor? Councillor Duran,
Favor.
yea? Councillor
In
McKinnon?
favor? In favor?
Councillor